What's up, guys, and welcome back to my gaming podcast. This is the second one, and it's currently still untitled, still a work in progress. So I am still currently taking suggestions for a title, but for now we are untitled. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, you're seeing the visual version. We are now on the audio platforms of Spotify and iTunes, which is all connect through Anchor FM. Not really sure how it works, but there will be links available in the description on either Spotify for the video content, and on the video content there will be links to the audio podcast. So today, it's been a couple of weeks since the last part. There wasn't actually too much going on news-wise in the gaming world, so I took a bit of a breather and come back when there's a little bit to talk about. There's still not a great amount of news going on, but there's a few significant things I'd like to talk about. So without going into the news, let's get into what I've been playing recently. So I'm always rotating the backlog. I'm always starting something new. I'm always finishing a game and moving on to the next one pretty much straight away. It never ends. The list is always ongoing. So I'm going to talk about a couple of games I've been playing recently. So first up is one that I finished literally about an hour ago, and that is Skyward Sword HD. Now, I'm not sure what year this originally came back out on, but it was on the Wii, and I had that on the Wii, and I never played it. I even bought the Motion Plus controller for it, because the basic sort of premise of this one was that it was all motion controls, and you swung the sword with the Wii remote. And I always liked the idea of that, because they made it a bit more efficient. They made the controller work a lot more with the controller Motion Plus, because I think it ran a bit shit on the original controller, but I never got around to playing it, even though I bought it and the controller. And as the years went on, I just felt like I didn't want to play that game, a Wii game, on a 4K TV. It just would not upscale very well. So I was pretty pleased when they did announce the remaster of it, because it's one of the only ones I've never played, like the mainline series anyway, 3D platformers. I've not played a lot of the originals or the 2D stuff, but yeah, this is one of the ones that I needed to play. So yeah, the Switch version has 1080p graphics, 60 frames a second, so the performance and stuff is a lot better. It's obviously a lot cleaner, and the art style is actually carried through quite well. It looks like it could have been a Switch game that came out in the last year or so. As for the motion controls, I only have a Switch Lite, so I don't have the motion controls for it. So all of it was translated into using the analog stick for the sword combat, and I think it did work really well. But if you have the normal Switch version, I believe you could just take the Switch Joy-Cons off and use them as if they were motion controls, which I think would probably be quite a good way to play the games. But sadly, I never got to experience that. Maybe when a Switch 2 eventually does come out, I will pick up a version with detachable Joy-Cons. So I've actually really enjoyed this game. It seemed to be a bridging gap between this one and Breath of the Wild, because the last one before this one was Twilight Princess, which I never actually finished, and Breath of the Wild is more open world, and this one seemed to sort of blend some of the features with the semi-open world, where you're flying around on a bird in the sky and you get to drop below the surface through the clouds into the dungeon areas, which, as you've expected if you've played a Zelda game before, there's a forest, a desert, a volcano area. So it's semi-open world in the way that you can travel around in the sky and pick where you want to go to. Also, you have stamina in this one as well. So you have a stamina bar which sort of winds down as you climb up grass roots and as you sprint. So I think they did add that into Breath of the Wild as well. So there's a few things. It seems like a lot of the Zelda games seem to continually evolve in certain ways, but Skyward Sword, which is actually the origin of the Zelda franchise, I believe, I think it is the first one in the chronological order, and I actually really dug the story in this one as well. It seemed to be a lot more focused, and without having to deal with any of the sort of time travel and other timelines from the other games, it was focused on the beginning of the story, and that's what it was. It didn't have to worry about what was in the future. Well, I guess it did, but I've not played a lot of the games where it's had these little sort of deep cuts. But one thing about this game as well, the end sort of boss fight was really cool. Some of the fights in this were really badass, especially when you are the one in control with the motion control. It really gave it a bit more impact when you were doing these finishing blows on the bosses and stuff. So really good. As with every Zelda game as well, the world design, mostly the puzzle design, it's second to none. I mean, I haven't played a ridiculous amount of platformers in general, but when I play a Zelda game, I come away thinking this was really well designed. Even if it's taken me half an hour to an hour to get through one room because I've been completely stuck in a water temple, I always come away satisfied thinking like that was really well done. There was one dungeon towards the end of this game where there's only 9 rooms, but it's in a mixing puzzle where it's like one of those puzzles where you have to create an image in the middle and all the pieces slide around and you have to keep sliding them. This is very hard to explain for audio viewers, but it's one of the ones where you have to create a design by moving pieces around until you get the right fit. And this dungeon was like that. So you had to move the rooms around on a panel and it was very confusing. But when I eventually got my head around it, it was quite cool. What else can we talk about in Skyward Sword? But yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed Skyward Sword. And from what I've seen over the years, that it's not the most popular of the titles in the franchise. A lot of people seem to think this is one of the worst. This could be to the motion controls, to the art style. I'm not really sure what it was. I think it was more about the motion controls back in the day, but now there's the option to play it without the motion controls like I did, and I honestly really, really enjoyed it. So let's hope Twilight Princess does get a Switch port eventually, because that is one I want to go back to because I never finished it. And I just bought Link's Awakening today, actually. So I finished up Skyward Sword and I'm thinking I'm going to play Link's Awakening. Hopefully there's a Twilight Princess remake within the next 6 months. And then we can move on to Breath of the Wild, because shock horror, I've not played Breath of the Wild besides the first 10 minutes. I'm waiting for me to play some more of the games. But mostly I'm kind of hoping there's a Switch Pro or a Switch 2 eventually that lets that game's performance reach its sort of peak. I would love to be able to play that game at a 1080p at least 60 frames a second. I would love that. So moving on from that one, next up is a game that I've had in my Steam backlog for a long time. I heard a lot of things about the performance of this game not running well at all, and I'd kind of just pushed it off. Like, I'll wait till I get a better PC to play this one, and that is Dishonored 2. Really enjoyed the first Dishonored, and I actually played that on my laptop of all places years and years ago, and it surprisingly did run really well, and I really enjoyed it. I love the whole sort of, what's it called? It's like a black box mission in Assassin's Creed where you can basically take on a target or your mission in a multitude of different ways, considering how you've built the stats of your character. So you can make your character have certain powers that can make you jump higher and teleport, and you can even have modes in the game where you can not have powers at all, which makes it really hard, where you have to run around and basically stealth everyone with a knife. So there's all these different options, and it's made by Arcane Studios, who make some really cool games that are a lot like this. I recently finished Prey, which was even more sort of, what's the word, changeable than Dishonored, in the way that you could go around the map and go around the missions. But Dishonored was great. It's been a long time. I was going to play the first one again, but I thought I was just going to go straight into 2 here and just have a fresh experience. And I've been absolutely loving the game. As you can see from the image up there, you can play as either Corvo from the first game, or I cannot remember, Emily. It's Emily something. You play as either character. I'm not sure how the story changes if you play as one or the other, but I decided to go with Corvo again just because I really like the character and I love his cool mask. And so I'm not sure how it affects the gameplay, but I know that a lot of people comment on you wearing a mask, so I wonder if it's any different if you play as Emily Caldwell. That is the one. As you can see in the image there, she does have a scarf up, so I wonder if they do just comment the same thing about her wearing a scarf or a mask. But yeah, really enjoying this one. The level design is great. I'm only about halfway through the game, but just the amount of different sort of ways you can go around a mission, different locations, optional objectives to gain more information on your target, getting like safe codes and to get through the different doors, and there's just so many different ways you can do it, so many different weapons, and it's all very original as well. It's a very original world. A lot of people tend to say that it's created the genre of whale punk, because everything is powered in that game, I believe, by whale oil instead of oil. Like, I think they run all the machines using oil from whales, which is just pretty weird. You always see washed up gigantic whales on the side of the sort of shores and stuff. So Yeah, absolutely love the world of Dishonored. Not sure, obviously, I'm not sure how it ends or how the expansion Death of the Outsider ends, but I'm not sure if there's any leeway for a Dishonored 3, but I'm always up there for another Dishonored game in the future, especially with what you can do on the next gen tech. But absolutely loving the game so far. The one mission that was really confusing to me, I mean, I loved it for the way it looked and the way it was built. You're in this place called the Clockwork Mansion, and there's all these switches which kind of changes the way the world looks. So you'll have bookcases moving around and the floor going up and down, and just is a very trippy map and very confusing if you don't know your way around it. And I did not know my way around it, but it was very clever and it was very cool to see it in a game like this where you're kind of pitted against a building that is designed to keep you away from your target, so you have to kind of adapt to it. But really, really enjoying Dishonored 2, and I might even go back on that tonight, and we'll see if we can get that finished by the next time the pod goes live with part 3. Okay, briefly, I am going to talk about something that I played, maybe only for about half an hour to an hour of, and that is the New World beta. This is an MMO that is coming out, I think, the 28th. It's next week some point, and it's got a bit of hype about it. It's made by Amazon Studios, which is, I don't know if that's a worrying thing or a cool thing, because the last few titles I've tried to bring out have not gone down so well, but this one, there's a lot of hype around it because it's been in beta for a long time. And it was on the open beta last weekend or the weekend before, so I thought I'd just give it a go. And like I said, I didn't get too far into it, but it's got some promise in there. It feels like a mix between sort of Valheim and Elder Scrolls Online in a way. The combat is a bit more fluent in the game. It feels more like an action game than it does than most RPGs, MMORPGs with hotkeys and stuff. That stuff is there as well, and you can only play it with a keyboard and a mouse at the moment, but yeah, I was enjoying what I did play of it, and I'm eager to see what the reviews are like when the full version comes out, although it's probably still early access for a long time until they nail the formula. But I am keeping my eye on this one, and maybe in a couple of weeks after reviews have come out and people have sort of talked about it and I've seen some YouTube videos, I might get into that world, because it is a free subscription as well. Once you've bought the game, you are in. You don't have to pay for a Plus subscription, which is one of my biggest criticisms with Elder Scrolls Online, which is a game I really got suckered into. I really enjoyed it, but you had to pay a monthly subscription to get extra bag space, which is so vital to your enjoyment of that game because you're constantly running out of space. But we'll see. New World does look interesting, and I am looking forward to seeing about it. Next up is something that hasn't happened yet. It's happening today, which is now Sunday. It's currently, I think it's the 26th today. I'm not actually sure on the date, which is a bit stupid of me. But it is now known as the Last of Us Day, and they're holding an event. I believe they're holding an event. If not, they're definitely giving off some more information about what's going on. It's probably a lot of merchandise stuff. But yeah, it used to be called Outbreak Day, and when COVID came around, they decided they were going to change the name of that to something a little bit less inflammatory for people to use against them. So it's now called The Last of Us Day. And yeah, I'm eager to see what they're going to be showing. I'm not expecting huge things. We might even see a bit of like a trailer of the HBO show, which looks quite interesting. And there's obviously been the rumours of The Last of Us Part 1 being remade, which, I mean, it seems a little bit earlier for that. The game still looks great, but let's be honest, I probably would check it out anyway. What I'm more interested in is what they are going to be doing with The Last of Us Part 2. We haven't seen the factions multiplayer mode yet, which they did announce, they did confirm that a long time ago that they were working on it. And it's been, I'm not sure how long it's been now, but yeah, I'm hoping we do get to see an update on that, because Last of Us 1's multiplayer was actually one of my favourite multiplayer games to play on the PlayStation 3 back in the day. I just loved the whole stealth aspect of it and going around smashing people in and upgrading your weapons on the fly. Like, I like that whole system of having to get kills and get loot and sneak around and get pieces of metal to build better weapons and defense items. So I can't wait to see what they do with a multiplayer for the second one. I think there's some rumours going around that they're working on a battle royale type of mode for it, but who knows? There was also some news about them sort of looking for workers as well to work on a multiplayer game. So It could be a long way off, but fingers crossed we do see something. And if we do, I will probably talk about it in the next podcast as well. I'm not sure what else they could really show off here. Potentially a PC port for the first Last of Us, or even Last of Us 2. That would be pretty awesome too. I've just realised I did not put the picture up for you guys. So there you go. That gives you a little bit more visual splendor to look at. But that's all we've got to say for that, because the event does not happen till later on this day. I think it's around 6 p.m. So if you are watching this live, you still got time to check it out if it does happen later on this evening. So the only other big thing that happened really this week that I want to talk about is the Nintendo Direct event. And I think it came out pretty short notice, and they kind of set everyone's expectations by saying this is stuff that's going to be coming out this holiday or in the near future, and stuff you already know about. So it wasn't going to be any big bangers for 2022. And it was at about 11 o'clock at night, and I can't stay up for those shows anymore. I have to be up at work for like 4:30, 5 a.m. So I had to watch that the morning after. I still watch it at like 5 in the morning, but at least I had the opportunity to kind of skip through and go through the bits that I wasn't too interested in. And in all honesty, there wasn't that much that really piqued my interest. I think a lot more stuff next year will probably be more exciting to me. But before we get into it, this is going to be something that I do want to do more frequently, and that's taking questions from viewers. So if there is anyone in the chat right now, then do drop any questions you have about gaming, about me, or anything to do with that, and I will try my best to answer it. But I've only got the one question this week, and that is from Mr. KDB. He's a good pal of mine. He does a Fallout podcast and a couple of other podcasts. He's also a member of the First Aid Spray Resident Evil Discord community, which is really cool. They have a YouTube channel as well. But so he has said, give us some thoughts on the Nintendo news, which is what I'm going to be doing following this. So I thought I'd get the question out of the way first. And what is your feeling on what the extra price might be for the expansion of N64 and Mega Drive to the Nintendo online service? So first of all, for the N64 and the Mega Drive service coming to Nintendo Online, which is supposed to be bundled into a sort of expansion package, which is going to be a little bit more expensive than what it is now. I believe it's about £30 for a year. It may even be £20, $2.99 in UK money a month. So it is really cheap, and you do get a few NES games and old stuff like that. But like they said, they're going to add the Nintendo 64 and the Mega Drive to it, and I'm not sure how many games in total. I did see a picture, and they had like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, and I think there was maybe Mario Kart and stuff like that. For me, I never owned a Nintendo 64. I mean, I did. I won one at a school disco, which is really weird. It was like a fair while after Nintendo 64 outstayed its welcome, so I didn't even have any games for it, but I did win one. I never really played it. Mega Drive was my first console growing up, so I do have a sort of a bit of nostalgia for that. But for me, a lot of the Mega Drive games have been put elsewhere already, and you can probably buy a lot of them on Switch already as well. But if they're bundling them in free, that's awesome. I'd love to play Altered Beast on there. That's one of my favorite games on the Mega Drive, and obviously we got the whole Sonics and stuff like that. As for Nintendo 64 stuff, I've got Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on my 3DS. Other than that, I'm not that interested in a lot of the stuff they have to offer. But as for price, I could potentially see them offering about $5.99, $6.99 a month possibly for this service, for the expansion, which is, say, a double of the price than what it is now. So let's say £45-50 for a yearly subscription, which in all honesty is not that bad of a price if they keep adding games and it has a lot of stuff on the jump just to play. So it would definitely bring a lot more people into the service, because right now I've had it for a year and a half, and I've honestly never played online, I don't think, besides playing Stardew Valley, and that was local as well. So I've never really played much online on the Switch, so I haven't been getting much value out of it. So if it was originally like the £40 that you pay for PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold, I definitely wouldn't be paying for it right now, because those two services just outweigh it like incredibly. You get so many more things on those services than you do on Nintendo Online. So if Nintendo were really sort of trying to push this, the best opportunity for them would be to put some older Switch games or even GameCube games or something, just to give it a bit more variety. But I can see it being £40 a year and say $5.99, $6.99 a month, which is probably optimistic for Nintendo, but that's my sort of opinion on it. So thank you for the question, Mr. KDB, and I will see you next time. So let's actually talk about the event here. There's not that much that got me excited, and let's be honest, it was 5 a.m. after not that many hours sleep, so I was kind of skimming through it. My eyes were probably glued together. But one of the more interesting things that they did show off was the expansion for Monster Hunter Rise, which was called Sunbreak, and the visual style of this looks really appealing. It looks very gothic. It almost looks like something from Devil May Cry with the reds there, as you can see in that picture. I'm currently playing through Monster Hunter World at the moment on the PC, and I'm really enjoying it. I mean, it kicks my ass all the time, and I'm not very good at it. And I'm glad that they announced that this was coming to the PC a lot earlier on, the Monster Hunter Rise, because I have all platforms, and usually I decide to pick the one which I can get the most out of or has the best sort of features and benefits. So being able to play this one, Monster Hunter Rise, in the near future on the PC is definitely got me excited for it. And now with this Sunbreak DLC, I'm even more excited because honestly, it looks really cool. Just the art style is enough to sell it. And I've not actually checked out much of Monster Hunter Rise, but from what I have seen, it does look really good. It's using the RE engine, which looks really good for the Switch. So hopefully they make some cool expansion sort of improvements on the game as well. One thing I do have a curved ultra wide monitor, so I'm hoping they do a full ultra wide support for it as well. Preferably 32:9, because I've just got a new monitor which supports that, and not a lot of games do. So that's my sort of wish list item there, is that Monster Hunter Rise has full ultra wide support on the PC. Castlevania Advance Collection. Now, I've always wanted to get into the Castlevania series, and I've only played really the two 3D ones that came out on I think it was around the Xbox 360 generation, which was Lord of Shadows 1 and 2, and I actually really enjoyed them. I've always wanted to go back and play the older ones. I've seen a lot of gameplay of them. I played a little bit of a few of them because I bought the Castlevania collection on Switch actually not too long ago. And retro games are so hard now. I don't think I'd ever be able to finish one of those games. I have Symphony of the Night, which is one of the more popular series titles. I have that on the 360 arcade, so having a Series X, I can bring that forward through backwards compatibility and play that. I'm not sure if that's the best version to play, but yeah, I am intrigued to playing these games at some point. And from what I've heard, these advanced ones are actually really good. And the improvements they've made on them look good as well, where you can sort of rewind and make saves at any point, which is definitely vital in a game of that stature where it's really hard to complete. If you want to play it, I don't know, 10, 15 years later, just for the experience, just for the story and the music, then yeah, that's a great feature to add. Because that's one thing that's always stuck out to me in the Castlevania series is the music. The music is awesome. So yeah, I will probably pick this one up on a sale at some point. I should probably try and finish the Castlevania collection I already have, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll talk about that one day. So there's only one other thing I was really sort of interested in with the Nintendo Direct event, and that was Bayonetta 3. Now, I only played Bayonetta 1 and 2 maybe 2 years ago. I played Bayonetta 1 on the PC, and Bayonetta 2 is still exclusive on the Wii U, and I played it on the Wii U. And those games, the combat in those games is so good. It's so smooth and fast, and I think it was even 60 frames on the Wii U. But the combat in that game, I think, was better than Devil May Cry. It's just so fast and smooth, and just all the executions you can do playing as... God, I can't even remember the girl's name. Bayonetta, let's say Bayonetta, but basically she can summon big dragons and what they call guillotines and all kinds of things. It's hard to explain if you are an audio viewer, but there's so many weird executions and mixtures of sort of gothic games in there. There's a lot of Devil May Cry inspired stuff in there. In fact, I think in Bayonetta 1, even probably in the second one, you fight the spider fire monster from Devil May Cry. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for a crossover at some point in the future. Even from this image here, you can see which is from the trailer. There, obviously, if you're an audio viewer, you can't see it, but it's a picture of this dude with sort of, I think it's a dude, it might be a woman. You can't really see because it's in shadow, but they've got sort of silver hair, slicked back, a big samurai style sword, and there's a red blood moon, and it looks a lot like it could be Dante or Virgil. So I'm not sure what this person's input in the series is, but they definitely leave the trailer on that note, and it gets you pretty excited. Just with that blood moon, it's an epic image. The game is slated for 2022. It's been in development since at least 2017 now, and I'm waiting to play it. My biggest problem with Bayonetta 3 is that it is exclusive to the Switch, because I feel like this game has so much more potential if it was able to be on PC, PS5, and the Xbox Series X, because the jump in graphical performance you can get, just look at Devil May Cry 5 on the RE engine. They have so much stuff they could do to this game visually and performance wise that you just can't do on the Switch, and it's quite disappointing in a way for it to be locked to the system. I know that's not a lot of people's thoughts on the game, but for me, I just wish this game was available on other platforms, or at least designed for them, because there's so many more things you can do with these games now, where the Switch just doesn't have the hardware for it. It doesn't have the SSD, it doesn't have the raw power behind it for the resolutions and the texture work. So it's a bit unfortunate, but I am still excited for it, and who knows, we might even get a port of it later on down the line. I've waited this long, I can wait a bit longer, so we'll see on that. So that comes to the end of our Nintendo talk there. There is not much else for me to talk about this week. It is, like I said, it's been quite a quiet week news-wise. There's not much coming out until October. We do have the Tokyo Game Show on the 29th, 30th, I believe. So Capcom is having a showing there as well. Could be potentially showing off more Monster Hunter and hopefully some Resident Evil DLC as well. So that's all I've really got to say for it this week. Please do leave me any questions either on the live chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, do leave me a comment on the video about something that's going on, or anything you want to know about me and gaming or my collection or anything like that. Do let me know, and I will try and get that into podcast numero 3. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you again with podcast part 3 whenever we have a good chunk of news to talk about. So see you all next time.